All right, so in today's show or podcast, whatever you want to call it, we're going to be interviewing another student of Colt Steele's Web Developer Bootcamp. This is Juan. Juan, if you want to tell us a little bit about your background before the course and then kind of your experience with the course and where it's taken you, where you are now, and kind of what the future looks like for you.
Yeah, so thank you. So I've been working as a video producer since I graduated from college. And at some point when I was, studying more things and getting training on things that I found interesting, I enrolled almost by coincidence in a multimedia course it was aimed at visual artists. It taught us some basic coding in a framework called processing. Not sure if you know about it, but it's just for creating basic shapes and movement and drawings, and it's easy to learn. You just say sort of put a circle here, a line there, and then you start combining things and you learn to code progressively. So I've been doing that for some years now, maybe 5 or 6. But that was based in Java. So I was also able to do some website work with with WordPress. But my knowledge was scattered everywhere because I knew a little bit of HTML here and some JavaScript there because I could code a little bit with Java. So I knew what code was, but my knowledge was very scattered, not very professional, I would say. And I think a year and a half ago or so, I decided that I liked coding more than I like video production. And then I started doing online courses, at first free ones and then Colt's course. And yeah, it's been very, very useful because I feel much more confident now that I can build a professional or pretty much production website with the course and some additional contents that I've looked for here and there. Yeah.
Awesome. That's interesting. That sounds a lot like my story where I had a film degree and I was kind of at that pivotal point where I was either, go full speed ahead into the film industry or do something else. And that's kind of when I got hooked on coding. And I had, like you said, like some WordPress skills, but all the pieces of the puzzle didn't necessarily fit together. And then once I got some formal training, then it was like, oh, okay, this is how this all, works together cohesively. That's really cool.
Cool. I didn't know that was your story too.
Yeah, that's very similar. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're all the way in Spain, right?
Yes,
yeah.
I'm in Barcelona, Spain.
Awesome. Very cool. So in terms of work that you're doing currently, are you working on any projects right now, or are you doing some contract work, or?
Yeah, I've been working as a freelancer for a while, and that allowed me to start working on some websites because clients that would contact me for video work would need websites built as well. So at first I would do simple ones with WordPress and plugins and modify some bits of code here and there. And then when I was doing the course in my spare time, at some point, I think I was around 50% or 60% through the course. And I was doing it very slowly. It took me a year. One of my clients told someone else that I could build a website for them. And they contacted me, but their idea was too complex to do in WordPress, or it would probably require lots and lots of plugins on top of each other and conflicting. And that's usually a pain. So I thought I wasn't ready yet for that site because it was a complex database with lots of what I know now are models and nested models. I'm using MongoDB, of course. So I've got several levels of nesting for my models. So I told them that if it was okay for them to wait a bit more until I had progressed more through the course, I could build a website. So at some point, I stopped doing the courses exercises and I switched to applying what I was learning to that website that I was slowly building. So it's been very useful to have a paid project, and that's nice, where I can put everything that I'm learning, and I think the knowledge sticks more, and you take the course seriously if you know you're putting that into practice.
Definitely. So that brings a couple questions to mind and a couple like really important points. And one thing you said is you're getting paid to learn basically.
Yeah,
And so
that's
you have a
awesome.
little bit of pressure, but it's good pressure. Like it helps you stay on
Yes.
course and makes sure that like you're solving these problems regularly and you're understanding what you're working with. And then
Hmm.
I think a lot of my audience would be interested to know kind of how you were able to find that type of work, because I think freelancing is a good gateway to like building your portfolio before actually seeking out a full-time position or maybe a part-time position.
I think most of the time I get my clients by word of mouth. I've been trying to do other marketing strategies, and I studied some advertising too, so I should be able to do campaigns. But at the end of the day, word of mouth is what always has worked best. And in this case, it was an old client that had a relative who needed a website, and they told them about me. And I would have probably said no if I hadn't been doing the course, because
Mm-hmm.
as I said, it was a very complex project. And even when I said yes, I told them, and I could do it because they were nice people and understanding, that I couldn't do the site yet, and that I was maybe 90% sure that everything that they needed could be I would be able to do in some months time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always found that you learn a lot also by accepting gigs you're not 100% ready to.
Yep.
Like I think you've talked in some of your videos about imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I get that too a lot, but I've also learned that taking the plunge and taking risks, it's worth it. And if you've got the, as you said, positive pressure, you do learn what you need to learn. And if you're happy to put the hours and spend some time learning the needed skills, you will achieve your goals.
Definitely. That's extremely valuable advice. I think it's really difficult oftentimes for beginners or even people that have been in the field for a little while to kind of, push those limits, because it can be uncomfortable. Whether or not you're working alone on a freelance gig or you're working on a team in a new company as a junior developer, you can deal with those feelings of inadequacy. So that's a tough thing to overcome. But I think what you said kind of proves the point that one of the best ways to deal with it is to kind of do it head on. If you think you can't do something, then just do it. And then
Yeah.
you'll have proved to yourself, despite those feelings, that you were capable. And you'll have learned something, coming out the other end. You'll say, I have this successful website. I made some money off it. Even if you made some mistakes, you can learn from those mistakes. And the next time around, you can avoid them.
Yeah. I've made many mistakes in this specific website that I've already realized. And they actually wanted two websites, this client. So I'll be fixing those things, at least for the second one, and maybe backtrack the fixes or the changes to the first one. And I think it's also useful to create your own projects if you don't have a paying client. I mean, everyone has ideas, and before you are a developer, you always think, oh, it would be cool if someone built a website that did this, or an app that did that. And now you can do it. So that's a great thing to be able to do, and also a great way to learn, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely relevant. I mean, literally not but 30 minutes ago, I was answering questions on Colt's course, and one of the students said, hey, I just finished the course, and, what should I do next? Should I continue on to Colt's advanced course, which, of course, I would say go to my Code Node course, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But in terms of before moving forward, she made a good point. She said, should I build something? I'm like, heck yeah, you should definitely build something. At least one thing, because the scope of a project can be anything from a single page, static about me type thing, all the way up to a full-fledged, production level application with multiple pages and functionality and various APIs. So you could build multiple small projects, or you could just work on one single, middle-sized to large project. Either way, if you're not getting paid, that's still a good way to build up your skills. And like I told the student, it's a good way to find your weaknesses as well.
Yeah. And you could even create something that generates money.
Yeah.
With advertising or with a service that you offer online.
Yeah, I have another student who I did an interview with. I still need to edit that interview and publish it. But his story was he took Colt's course, and then in his day-to-day job, he had a task that, or a couple different things. I think he built multiple apps where himself and his coworkers needed to solve a problem with like scheduling or something like that, or payments. And so he took what he learned from Colt's course and what he learned from my course, and he built an app, and he showed his coworkers like, hey, you can use this. It's up on Heroku, and here they are on their phones every day, waking up using this application to like be more productive and get things done with a completely unrelated job to web development. So
Yeah.
that kind of thing is definitely valid.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think the content in these courses is so overwhelming. There's so much details and frameworks and small and large things that you learn that it's impossible to memorize them if you don't put them to practice. Like I've probably watched not every lesson, but most lessons twice, and still I need to go back and check what I've learned again every now and then. And hadn't I been building this website, I would have forgotten many things that I know now quite well, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's something as simple as CSS selectors where there's just a million of them and students get overwhelmed. Like, do I have to memorize all this? No, definitely not. You want to read them and get familiar with what's out there. That way it's in the back of your head. And when you're working on a project and you say, oh, I need to move this image to the left, and make it overlay this other image. How do I do that with CSS? Oh yeah, I remember there's a way to do it. I don't necessarily remember the syntax, but I can look it up easy enough just by typing in something general about this feature I'm trying to build. And all the answers are right there on Google, just, a couple clicks away. So that's really the great thing. As long as you have an internet connection, you can really solve and do anything when it comes to web development or programming in general.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So what are your plans for the future?
Right. So I've got a huge list of projects that I'd like to work on. I'm starting to say no to some of my potential video clients, although I'm still not getting many development clients, because I'd like to have some more spare time to learn more things and create my personal projects. There are some technologies that I'd like to learn. Ajax is one of them, but it's not included in the course, and I think it's interesting. I think you've done some courses on that.
Yep. Yeah, I have a free course for it.
Yeah, I've enrolled to yours actually, but I haven't done it yet. Then I've got, maybe React would be nice to learn.
Definitely.
Because then you can apply it to mobile apps too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with React Native. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to learn React and you have the time, I don't know that I would start with Ajax. In my Ajax course, that's how I recommend it. I'm like, hey, you should learn Ajax, and then you'll kind of understand what's happening behind the scenes with React. But if you know right away, like, I want to build something with React, then you might as well just start with React. And most of those courses are going to cover on the client how to connect to the server with something like Fetch, which is, Fetch is basically the new way to do Ajax. In my course, I show how to do it with jQuery, but Fetch is a more modern approach. And then there's also some people prefer Axios, which is similar to Fetch. But either of those approaches are really good for getting data or communicating with an API from a front end, which is essentially what we're doing in my course, but on kind of a dumbed down level with Ajax and jQuery. But yeah, that sounds really awesome. I guess it seems like kind of everybody's goal. At least my goal is just like buying yourself time so you can do this stuff you enjoy. You're like, should I take this job for X amount of dollars, or should I free up, like an extra couple hours a week so I can, do something that I enjoy? So that's cool. It's good. It's good to hear that.
Yeah, it's been so difficult to complete the course because I was so busy with video work for the last year. And it basically took me an entire year. Of course, doing the lessons many times and going back and going to other courses to learn Git, for example. I think there's an introduction to Git in the course, but that's one skill that's very, very useful. Very useful to have when actually working for a client, because you can go back when you mess up. And
yeah, absolutely. Git is super important. Like right now I'm working on some stuff, and I've had times where I'll make a mistake, like a major mistake, and it's not a problem because I'm on a different branch. So there's a complete copy of the good code, and I can just pick and choose what I need from each one. And if you're not super fluent with Git, it can get kind of scary because you're like, oh my God, did I just lose everything? But Git is super powerful. Like, I learn new stuff about it every day, where like I had done something where I had lost an entire commit, and I just looked it up, like, how do I get this commit back? Even though I knew, like, everything I've done, that thing is gone, I'll never get it. And there was just some obscure command that somebody knew, and I typed it in, and it was like, boop, there's your code. I was like, yes. So, yeah, super powerful tool. Definitely something that I would recommend every developer learn. So
yeah, it's also scary when you know just a little bit of Git and then you mess up, have to go back, say, for the first time in your life, and you're not sure if you're like destroying stuff when you go back, and you might messing up even further.
As I told a student the other day, they were trying to do something with Git, and I was just like, just make sure you keep a duplicate copy. Like, if you don't understand branches, then just make it simple for yourself and just copy that folder to a new folder and then go back to the original. As long as you have a copy, then, no problems. But the moment you start deleting stuff, I had a horrible problem when I was in college where, like, it was an OCD thing where if I didn't need something or I thought I didn't need it, I would just delete it. And there were often times where I would just delete a ton of stuff and be like, oh man, I needed that. Like, no. And I didn't know anything about Git at the time. So yeah, super important to always have a backup. And then, of course, the better you get with Git, the easier it becomes to do that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I agree.
Cool. Well, I wish you luck. It sounds like you're headed in the right direction. Really appreciate you taking the time to come on and tell us about your story. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Not a problem at all. I appreciate all the input. There's definitely some great feedback. I think it will be valuable to the people watching this video. So thanks a lot. Let's stay in touch, and looking forward to hear how things go for you in the near future.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Thanks.